Hello, sixth graders. I'm sorry I cannot be with you today, so I'm going to do my best to teach you through this video. Here's today's goal. Readers notice how authors characterize using direct and indirect characterization. Connection to point of view. The narrator's perspective influences how we see the characters through directly telling us things and giving us hints and clues. You should have a note sheet in front of you. We're just going to fill that out together today, going over a couple of terms. Some of these are review. First term is protagonist. For protagonist, we talked about how pro equals good. We know that the protagonist is the main character or the good guy. For antagonist, we talked about how anti equals against. And we know that the antagonist goes against the main character. He's kind of like the bad guy. I already put a picture on the chart for you for this one. It says Harry Potter and Voldemort. For our other terms today, you're going to have to draw your own picture. But I'll give you a couple examples to use just to help you out. So these two terms are review, but it's important that you remember what those mean, so I wanted to go over those again. Our new terms. Our first one is static. Now this isn't static like on your TV static. This is a different kind of static. I like to remember the STA part of static because it reminds me that it means stays the same throughout a story. A static character does not change. Usually static characters are minor characters because they have a smaller role. It's not very interesting when a character is static. And so authors usually only make minor characters static because they're smaller in a story, and so it doesn't really matter as much that they don't change. My picture for static, this might have a character who is angry and mean in the beginning and rude. If they're static, by the end of the story, they're still angry and mean and rude. They didn't learn anything. They didn't change at all. Dynamic. A dynamic character is the opposite of static. They are a character who changes throughout the story. Usually they learn a lesson. Usually dynamic characters are the main characters because readers want dynamic characters. Readers want a character who changes. That's more interesting. It's more exciting. For our picture, let's say I have a character who's angry and mean and rude, but then at the end of the story, they become joyful and optimistic and positive. Okay, they have a different outlook than they did in the beginning. That would be a dynamic character, a character who changes. We're also going to talk today about two types of characterization. One is direct characterization. Direct characterization is when the narrator tells exactly what the character is like or how he or she feels. This is usually done in two ways. One way is through physical description. So this includes how a character looks, a character's age, clothing, height, weight, etc. For example, Bob was tall and athletic. We don't have to guess what he's like. The narrator is directly telling us. So we know that the trait for this example is athletic. Bob's athletic. Another way authors do this is through internal thoughts. This is when the narrator tells you exactly how a character is feeling. So, for example, Bob felt sad. Right away, I know that Bob feels sad. I don't have to guess, I just know. Another way that authors characterize, and this one's way more interesting, is indirect characterization. In indirect characterization, the narrator gives us hints about the character through words and actions. Okay, so for example, this might be done through dialogue, the words a character uses, the way a character speaks. For example, let's say I have Bob again. If Bob says, "Let me hold the door for you," we know that he's polite. The narrator didn't tell us he was polite, but we could make a guess that he was polite based on his dialogue. Authors also give us hints about the character through actions. How a character treats others, what a character does. For example, Let's say Bob sat with a new boy at lunch instead of just sitting with his friends. We know that Bob is caring. And again, the author didn't tell us that Bob was caring, but we were able to make a guess based on the clues. Right now, I need you to look back through your notes. Make sure that they match my notes. If you need to re-watch this video, make sure that you do that, because by the end of today, you need to know all 4 terms: protagonist, antagonist, static, dynamic. And lastly, you need to understand the difference between direct characterization and indirect characterization.